Okay, so our group over here kind of came to a consensus that none of us felt really a very deep loss from what happened here, and so that led us to the discussion of what enrages us and what things do elicit the grief response from us. And we all also agreed that things that humans do really lead to that response. So because we all have a say in what humans do, I think we can grieve. And in this case, nature just takes its course. We don't really have a say in it. So that's basically what we came up with. That's agreed on. So.
Our group didn't really get into time and loss as much as maybe lessons learned and kind of communicating lessons from St. Helens in a broader context. So we were talking about disasters in general and how we learn from them. And for example, with tsunamis, you have these signs down at the beach that tell you what to do in the case of tsunami, but nobody really pays attention to them. Or the tsunami exercise that was, I guess, down at the coast didn't really work all that well. And that's where the importance of kind of cultural signals, where poets and writers and artists and singers come in, because we do pay attention to that. You're much more afraid of something that's told to you in a lullaby as a little kid than if a government bureaucrat tells it to you when you're 35. You'd ignore that. Or if we all saw Bigfoot up there on that ridge right now, we'd instinctively go, "Oh my God, that's a Bigfoot," as versus another kind of disaster that we're not really afraid of, or hasn't been kind of pushed into us through our culture like Bigfoot has. So we kind of talked about the different ways that we get it wrong around things like Mount St. Helens, and and again, the importance of transmitting science and information through culture so that we understand the kind of the broader context of phenomena that happen in nature that more and more in our life and our society we can ignore because we can sit in front of a video game or go to a movie instead of look around. So, I probably missed a few things, but I got part of it anyway.
Well, our group talked about many things, but we thought we would offer one idea that arose that is very portable. Rick Brown from the Defenders of Wildlife opened our discussion by saying we need new verbs. And for some time I've been thinking about the old verb, conserve, which is at the root of both conservative and conservationist. And for months now I have been talking with people who describe themselves as conservative. And in the conversation I say, well, actually, there are things I want to conserve too. What do you want to conserve? And let's talk about that. And often I'll find that there are many things that we both want to conserve. For example, intact families, or safe streets, or open space, or working farmland. But sometimes we'll find that really what that person wants to conserve is corporate profits at the expense really of anything else. And at least it clarifies the nature of the conservatism. And we need to wedge apart the folks, for example, small town folks who are worried about jobs leaving their community, from corporate executives of global corporations, both of whom call themselves conservative, but who really want to conserve dramatically different things. And also we need to help people who think of themselves or describe themselves as conservative to understand that conservationists are fundamentally conservative. We want to conserve the beauty and the bounty and the diversity of the planet. And we also want to preserve the opportunity for future generations, not only of our kind, but of all creatures, to inhabit this planet and flourish here. And there's nothing more conservative than that aspiration.
So our group had one central question, and truth in advertising, we didn't have any conclusive answer, but we'll put it out there in hopes that you'll take it home and keep thinking about it. And the question was raised by our provocateur, Anne, which was the preaching to the choir potential of a group like this. And the kind of the core question is, what will it take to make connections happen for people between a place like Mount St. Helens and the lessons here, or on a larger scale, the place of people in the more than human world? And some of the things that we came up with were, we took a look at, for each of us, what was it that helped us get here? And a common theme there was somebody taking you by the hand and saying, you come too. And the power of that happening in all sorts of different scales. Another one that we thought of, because we were thinking of some of the sectors of the population for whom it might be the last thing that they'd want to do would be to come out here and think about the lessons from Mount St. Helens, was perhaps the value of meeting people where they are and encouraging them to think about their connections to the natural world that could be as close as inside their refrigerator, and work with the things that are the most elemental, and then work our way out. And the final thought was, in terms of the processes, the idea that there seems to be some approaches that clearly open possibilities and things that close them down. And on the opening side was the power of curiosity, encouraging attentiveness, admitting our ignorance and being driven by questions. And the things that seem to be the closers are having the interaction with the natural world being about someone having the answer and delivering the message, which often causes people to decide there are other things they're more interested in. So no answers, but some exploration.
Our group also decided to leave you with questions which we haven't answered, but again, a hint at the answer. And the first question is really, how can all of you who participated over these last few days disperse the lessons that you've learned? How can you actually take the seeds and spread them? And the second is really, what can all of us learn from this experience about how to bring diverse people together, not just scientists and humanists, but people with very diverse views about people's relationship to nature? How can we use what was done here to figure out a way on multiple fronts to bring people together to achieve new insights and innovation? And on that score, I think that we really felt that there was a very strong need to continue the dialogue that has happened here in whatever way the participants can do it, whether it's by email or telephone calls. But there was also a real sense from those who've been here the whole time that it really mattered that this dialogue occurred at this place, and that there was a need and a desire to come back and have a reunion where the participants can really reflect upon and share what insights have come from the seeds that were planted here over the last few days. So that notion of a reunion was something that I think everyone agreed to.
We wrote a poem. Feeling of loss, grieving, locals still grieving 25 years later, for a way of life as well as a landscape. Grieving, war veterans, war in Iraq, tears. Recovery, will never be the same again, but can build something again. Islands, little islands of what's left, legacies, build a spirit again. Mount St. Helens, relief, it's one disaster we are not to blame for. Hope we can build again on islands of what's left. Story of nip and tuck, ravens smart enough to peel toads. For us, sense of humility, trying to be smart enough.